So my roommate, who's never home, turned the heat off, okay? Have I hit back on? No. Yesterday was warm out, okay? Today, not so much. Today, it's only in the high 50s right now. According to different things, it's 59 or 58 or 57. According to the news, it's going to go down to 45 degrees. I've decided to conduct an experiment because, like I said, I don't like bullies. It makes me ill. It makes Joe ill, too. He sent me a thing. I didn't even know this. You know, I don't know what these landlords think, or maybe they think, oh, well, it's you know, we've had really warm days. You don't need to have the heat on anymore. No. According to Massachusetts law, winter season is all the way up until June 15th. And what that means, I just found this out now, just a half hour ago. You have to know your rights. Winter season is till June 15th. And you, as a tenant, have a right in Massachusetts to have every room in the house be 68 degrees up until 11 o'clock at night. I guess until it gets 11 o'clock at night, and then 11 o'clock at night till 5:59 in the morning. The legal thing is 64 degrees. Okay? That's the law. And even when I told Joe, I'm like, you know what? The landlord bitches, and that's intimidation. Okay? The first time we had, it was, I don't know, a few weeks ago or something, there was like a warm day. Okay? The landlord himself called up my roommate and bitch because, see, they're next door and they notice if the furnace turns on, okay? Called up and said, you know, it's 70 degrees out, why is the heat turning on? The heat turned on because even though it may have been 70 degrees out, but it was cooler in the house, okay? Because the heat wasn't on, whatever it was on doesn't matter, okay? Remember, Massachusetts, our weather goes back and forth. It could be, we had really warm days, and then we had really cold days, okay? You have to bear that in mind. So, I gave him that was fine. He told my roommate that, actually this wasn't that long ago because this hasn't been that long. He told my roommate that, you know, it's warm out, all you have to do is open the windows or something, it'll heat up inside the house. Okay, that's legitimate, that's fine, okay? That was that one time. And my roommate was home, so he had proof. Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry, you know, I wasn't thinking, even no, blah, 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 whatever, okay? Okay. Fast forward, we had really cold days here, like a few in a row, really cold. But I already knew that story, right? I already knew that story. I already knew that the second that happens, the landlord would call him bitch. And when my roommate told me about this, he also said, you know what? Usually she, the wife, bitches, not him. So I think something's up. I really think that he wants, you know, me out of here, whatever. And I'm like, well, why isn't he just up front with you? Why doesn't he tell you the truth? You know, he's like, I don't know, but usually he doesn't, bitch, only she does, and blah, 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 whatever. And I'm just thinking, that's ridiculous. Paying $1,600 a month, okay. You know, and even if the heat did turn on, it's only on what it would be on in the winter. So it just means that it was that. And Joe didn't even care about that. He's like, tough shit. You know, you can have that heat on, and even for it, you know, to make it. You can have the heat on, and it's legally allowed, but I didn't even care about that. What I care about is, because what he told me, I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, so then, in the future, because we had warmer days, heated up the house, and then it stays warm even when it gets a little cold, you know what I mean? So, what I did was, because it gets colder at night or whatnot, I put the heat on I put it just below 60, okay? Because then it's never going to turn on unless it gets below 60 in this house. Well, we had those really cold days where it was even less. It was like 30-something in the morning, or a little under 38 or something, the news said, right? The furnace did turn on because it dipped below 58 degrees in this house. she called up and bitched to him. He talked back to her and said, look, he's like, it's set to 58. It turned on because it went lower. And so he talked back to her, okay? When Saturday, when the landlord was trying to intimidate him and saying, I could try to, whatever, he said, I told her to call. It was 70 degrees out. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. You fucking prick who has the freaking, wood burning stove, which I only found out because I'm like, don't they get cold? We had cold days. I could prove it. I could go on Google and we had cold days. It was abnormally cold. It was below average cold, okay? They have a fucking wood burning stove. They're fine. They're warm. I couldn't believe it. Because I said, what? When I found out she bitched, I'm like, oh my God, that's because it was cold, Bob. That was, it went down to 58 degrees in the house, bitching. And then the landlord lied on Saturday. He's like, I told her to call. It was 70 out. Oh, you fucking prick. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I was here. It was cold out. I wore my winter coat when I walked home. It was cold out. But you see what I'm dealing with? You see what I'm dealing with? It's sick. It's sick. It's sick. So that's filling me with anxiety, Joe's like, you have to assert your rights, Laura. So I'm conducting an experiment tonight. I'm going to conduct an experiment. I sent my roommate that thing that Joe sent me, and I sent him saying, you're legally, I could report. Joe's like, you could report the landlord. It's bullying tactics. They call up and complain if they see the furnace turn on. It's supposed to get really cold tonight. I'm not going to turn the heat on. And I'm going to take a picture of how cold it gets. I'm going to take a picture. Obviously not while I'm sleeping another night. I'm gonna dress, bundle up I'm gonna take a picture of what the degrees is in this house in the morning. I'm gonna print it out at CVS and I'm gonna hand it to my roommate and I'm going to tell him to show it to his cheap fucking bastard of a landlord and the landlord's equally cheap bitch of a wife. I was already upset about that. They're bitching because the furnace turns on. We're not taking advantage. We're not keeping it. It's fucking less than 60 degrees and they're in here and they're bitching because the heat turns on. Makes me ill. They get $1,600 a month. That's the rent. That's the rent that my roommate was paying on his own. And he couldn't afford it. That's why he had to get a roommate. He was with someone before, and that someone was gone, and now he's trying to do it on his own, and he can't. And the landlord's going to be saying, you're not supposed to have a roommate. What do you want? Someone's blood? You're getting $600 out of your asshole. Oh, I'm sickened. And yeah, it's already getting colder downstairs. Remember, this is like a big, chilly type. It's already getting colder. I'm not going to turn the heat on. I'm not going to turn it on. It's a lot cooler downstairs than it is up here. I'm not going to turn it on. And I'm going to take a picture. And Joe sent me that because he's sick and he's like, you could report them. It's illegal. And I said, well, they're not stopping us from doing the heat. They just bitch. And he's like, yeah, and that's intimidation and bullying tactics. It's still illegal. It's not right. Because it fills me with anxiety, Because he tells me that they bitch, and then I'm afraid to turn the heat on when I have every legal right to do so.